Like the idea of a van with fixed twin single beds, but only got a small tow car? Well, I might just have the answer for you. This is the Caravelair Antarès 450, and it weighs just 1,150 kilos, and that includes a 170 kilo payload. I've got another number for you too, 13,695 quid. For a brand new caravan, that is really quite remarkably cheap, particularly when you consider that this van does have most of the essentials. We've got an AKS hitch stabiliser there, we've got a couple of alloy wheels, we've even got external access to the space underneath the fixed beds. That's actually quite rare to find in a good value van. We've got more storage space at the front here with this enormous gas locker, where you'll also find the spare wheel. Now, if it looks unconventional, that's because this is actually a French-built van rather than a traditional Brit. It's made by Caravelair in France, and it's brought to the UK exclusively through dealer giant Marquis. But what's it like inside? Bearing in mind its relatively compact external dimensions, the 450 feels surprisingly spacious inside, particularly up front here. I mean, these fixed single beds are enormous, and yes, they're at the front, not in the back as you'd more commonly find them in a British van. The one I'm sitting on is 2 meters long, the other one just a little bit less, and they're both really wide, despite the fact there's a reasonable corridor between them. They also prop up at the head, so you can sit back and read, and for that you get these nifty little bendy reading lights, plus there's a couple of shelves overhead and this useful space for putting your books and cups of tea in the middle. There's bags of storage here too, both underneath each bed and these two lockers overhead. There's also a TV point mounted at the end and a curtain to shut this area off from the rest of the van if you've got guests. One thing I really like though, fixed twin beds are a great idea if you need the loo in the night. You won't have to disturb your partner. But what about if you want to cuddle? Well, there's a perfect answer here. There are a couple of infill cushions and panels that turn this into a massive double. As ever with a Continental caravan, the kitchen is, let's say, a bit compromised. We've got a 3-burner gas hob here, and we have got a little sink with this teeny tap. But now that I've put those up, where are we going to do our chopping? Well, there is a very small lift-up flap here, but frankly, I think you're going to have to be a little bit efficient and prepare your cooking before you start by using these surfaces here when they're down. Beneath we have got a cutlery drawer, which is a reasonable size, and beneath that a cupboard too, along with a good sized fridge. And there's more storage overhead in these two lockers. But what about the oven? Well, actually this van has been targeted towards the UK market, which means that it does have a combined oven and grill. But it isn't in the kitchen, it's over here on the offside of the van, underneath the world's smallest wardrobe. You really are only going to have to be able to pack very, very short dresses. And underneath that oven, that's where you'll find the Truman Heater, which also has a blown air system, although it is fairly basic. In front of that, well, we've got this rather large unit here, and that contains the washroom. The washroom is small but pretty perfectly formed. The shower tray forms the floor, there's a bench toilet and not one but 2 bathroom cabinets with a reasonable sized bowl sink and the tap acting as a shower head. Plus there's a little fabric curtain to keep everything dry when you shower. There's no lounge area as such in this Caravelair, but at the back of the van here there is a really good sized dinette, and there are a couple of these big squishy scatter cushions to add a bit of comfort. Realistically though, for true lounging, you're probably likely to use those recliners at the front, particularly as that's also where you'll find your TV. These ones are really a little bit upright. That said, there's plenty of space back here. In fact, although this van is marketed as a 3-berth, there's definitely room for 4 around the table, and masses of storage underneath each seat, couple of shelves and a couple of lockers above, and behind me here, this neat little cubby hole, just the place to store your breakfast cereals so they're ready to bring out in the morning. At night, this turns into a single bed, although, whisper it, I reckon if you've got a couple of kids, they could definitely squeeze onto here. There's little doubt that the Antarès 450 is pretty Spartan, both inside and out. And if you're used to a traditional British caravan interior, it's going to feel fairly clinical, although for many, that's part of the appeal. And it's worth pointing out, that if you're on a really tight budget and don't have a very big tow car, this van could well be the difference between buying used and buying new.